Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and today we're going to be covering Game 5 of the first ever World Chess Championship match between Johannes Zuckertort and Wilhelm Steinitz. Zuckertort has won the last 3 games in a row and has the white pieces in this game. Steinitz won the first game, so Steinitz is going to be looking for a comeback game here, or simply will be attempting to not lose because he has the black pieces, though in the 1800s you can win any game because there's no such thing as opening theory. So we're going to go immediately. So we have d4, d5, and another Slav defense from Steinitz. He seems to really enjoy this opening, though he's scored 50% with it so far, winning the first game he played it, losing the second game he played it. So we have knight c3. This is all just theory, as you can see. We have c takes d5, c takes d5, queen b3, bishop comes back, which looks stupid but is actually opening theory. The knight comes out to c6. We have knight e5, we have e6, and the bishop pins the knight to the king, which is just a very logical move. In the 1800s, they didn't really understand what a good move is, they just understood what pretty moves are. So Zuckertort pins the bishop, pins the knight to the king with the bishop. We have queen c7, just adding a defender to the knight, and also allowing for the rooks to be connected faster in the future. Bishop d2, just defending this knight, maybe looking to a long castle at some point. We have bishop d6, which the computer describes as an inaccuracy. As you can see, it wanted bishop e7. But bishop d6 makes a lot of sense. You just want to get rid of this. You want to get rid of this knight and win a pawn in the process. f4 is played, solidifying the knight by defending it twice. We have castles. Rook c1, just lining up the rook with this queen, maybe with the idea of playing, I don't know, take, queen takes, well, maybe with some idea if this knight ever moves, this knight becomes pinned to the queen. We have bishop takes, which the computer does not like, however, it's logical. The knight on e5, this knight is a very powerful knight, very nice looking knight, and you want to get rid of it, and that's perfectly fair and reasonable. We then have knight e8, which is a retreating move, which doesn't make sense to me. I feel like you should probably, I mean, you should be attacking, really. You know, this just position looks kind of bad for black. But we have f6, challenging this very strong center. The bishop comes back to d3, going after the pressuring the h7 pawn, I imagine. Queen c2 might happen soon. We have rook f7. So I suspect that he intends to, in the future, defend the h-pawn by moving the g-pawn. We have queen c2 and f5. So I'm not sure what rook f7, what that achieved, but I guess now the rook is defended by the queen is defended by the rook. That's nice for everyone involved. We have rook f2. The rook comes to c8, just doubling up on the file that your opponent also has doubled up on. Just a good idea. You know, try and compete for control of this c file. We have bishop c3, we have queen b6, pressuring the b2 pawn, putting the queen on the same diagonal as the king and rook here. to a more active square where it can actually do things and see pieces and stuff like that. We have queen d2, just making this battery with the queen and bishop, and also moving the queen off of the line of sight of this rook. So we have knight e7, opening up the rook to compete and contend for control of the c-file. We then have rook f1, rook cf1, so Zukertort gives up the c-file, essentially. To Steinitz, we have bishop e5, which the computer gives a great move for. I'm not particularly sure why that's so incredible, but I guess it is. We have bishop b1. Well, yeah, I guess you don't really want to trade off the bishop here. And if you don't, you now have a knight pinned to the rook. So the knight is now pinned to the rook after bishop b1, but a2 is defended. Both these pawns are now defended by a bishop, and the bishop still has future prospects, maybe, if the f-pawn can be moved. If you can induce an f-pawn movement, which Zukertort decides to do with g4. We have g6, just solidifying this f-pawn, not giving up the rook first and foremost, but also not, because obviously if you take here, you lose the rook, but also not allowing this open diagonal for the bishop, which is good chess. So we have g6, we have h3, just ensuring that if it ever becomes possible for black to take the g-pawn, that they don't just get a free pawn. So we have rook c7. I suspect he intends to move the knight and then have these two rooks defend each other, and then maybe he can take. So we have rook e1, I guess building up the defense of this knight. He maybe wants to move the queen or something of the sort. We have knight g7, knight f4, pressuring this pawn a little. Also just a very, very nice square for the knight. Even if it isn't able to take any pawns, it's still exerting a lot of pressure. We have knight back to c8, so I assume he intends to route his knight to c4, as Steinitz here wants his knight on c4 to attack the queen. Though that's 3 tempo used for a simple attack on a queen. I don't know if that's worthwhile. We have pawn takes, g takes f5 by Zukertort, g takes f5 by Steinitz, and then rook g2, pinning the knight to the king. We have king h1, king h2, king h8, sorry, king h2, and then we have queen c6, trying, I assume, to bring his queen back to defend the back rank, and also maybe trying to build up pressure on the bishop. Then we have rook eg1, building even more pressure up on the knight here. Moving knight e7, trying to, I assume, bring the knight to g6 to cut off the rooks, to cut off the pressure that the rooks are exerting on this knight by defending with the pawn. We have queen f2, queen e8, and rook takes g7 here, which the computer gives a brilliant move, and it's certainly a very pretty move. So obviously you want to see the continuation. The continuation is rook takes g7, rook takes g7, king takes, and you hang this fork. So white comes out up a rook for a pawn at the end of this, with a bunch of pressure, completely open king. You're gonna win this pawn probably. You're gonna win this pawn here probably because of the bishop and the queen. The queen comes here, you're gonna push. This is just not, you're not having a good time in this game. Also the bishop's being threatened here, so you can just trade off the knight, and then the queen can never come here because you hang the bishop, obviously. Not never, but you're winning the f5 pawn. Next you're going to be up a full rook. And so after rook takes g7 here, Steinitz resigns. He goes down a full 3 points. Zukertort has scored 4 points now, of the necessary 10, draws not included. So Zukertort is looking in a very, very good position for this match so far. This game basically just included Zukertort outplaying Steinitz in the opening that Steinitz, I guess, decided would be his game plan for this match, as he has played the Slav defense in every black game he's had so far, and it's now won him 1 and lost him 2, so maybe he should decide against it. But yeah, Steinitz resigns because there's nothing he can do. He's just in a very bad position, and he still has more games to play. It's not like the match is over, so he doesn't want to suffer that long and become worse in the next game. So Zukertort takes a 4-1 lead after this game, losing the first game and winning 4 in a row afterwards. And yeah, that's it. Have a good one.